What is food justice?
First word that come to mind is food sovereignty. So the idea that everyone as a human right should be entitled to access to healthy, culturally appropriate food.
It really is about the belief that every human has and should have access to healthy and nutritious food. We really see that as an inherent right.
Kind of started as I believe, a grassroots movement that really kind of started within communities because of the fact that, food is so integral to people and to different communities. Food means different things.
So food justice is the ability and the affordability for people to have healthy and fresh food in their neighborhood.
And it's important that whether it's healthy foods or access to fresh foods, that we're making those available to everyone, regardless of their socioeconomic background or cultural preference.
Being food insecure has nothing to do with whether or not you're employed, whether or not you have a full-time job, whether or not you're considered poor by any government or other person's standards.
Navigating a food desert is unjust.
I'm Jaxie Friedman, Sustainability Specialist for the New York City Department of Education. I spoke with several experts to dive a little deeper into this topic of food justice. Everyone needs food to survive, but not everyone has it, and that's a problem.
Hi, I'm Andrew Margon. I am a high school teacher at the High School for Environmental Studies. I teach a food systems class to 11th and 12th graders, 9th grade English, and I am also the school's sustainability coordinator.
My name is Robert Lee. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Rescuing Leftover Cuisine. Rescuing Leftover Cuisine, or RLC for short, is a nonprofit organization that brings excess food from food establishments like restaurants and catering companies and brings it to people who need it at homeless shelters, soup kitchens, and food pantries.
My name is Joshua Delgado. My school, I'm from DeWitt High School, and the organization that I work for internship in is Team for Food Justice.
My name is Zanita Tisdale, and I work for the Food Bank for New York City, and I lead the organization's efforts to collaborate with our network of emergency food programs that offer food pantries and soup kitchens in 90% of the zip codes across New York City.
And I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I have to put that in there if I'm going to claim a borough, but currently living in Washington Heights.
I am here in my apartment in Queens, in Long Island City in Queens.
I am in my house, particularly in my kitchen, and I am from Bronx, New York City.
So I am actually at home right now. I'm a recent transplant to New Jersey, but represent the neighborhood of Brooklyn still to this day.
What are the food justice issues in New York City?
My parents basically, grew up, came here as Korean immigrants, and I grew up here in Whitestone in Queens. And as I was growing up, I kind of always believed that food was scarce for everyone. and I kind of just, grew up cherishing any food that came across my plate because I just didn't know when it was going to come, next.
I grew up in the Bronx, so we have in New York City as well. So we have a lot of fast food places. A lot of people eat unhealthy, but not by choice. Most of the time, that is the most convenient thing there.
I remember, and this was, probably a decade ago in Brooklyn, but I remember having to take 2 trains and a bus to get to a grocery store. And I think when we talk about food justice, we talk about affordability, but we also talk about access to food. And oftentimes when you're looking for fresh produce that's affordable and is not going to cost you an arm and a leg, you have to travel.
It really kind of comes down to the fact that there's this inequality and the fact that there's just so much food out there that can be used to feed people, but isn't. And the way that's done is also important. And, with dignity, because my parents would never go to a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen. And I would watch them skip meals and, they would rather do that than get assistance.
There are definitely communities that are disproportionately affected. Hunger never discriminates. We know that, children, specifically children from low income families, they'll get 2 meals a day, oftentimes that they're able to get at school. But when they go home, there's a lot of uncertainty and really an unjust stress that these children have to face as they're thinking through what's going to happen over the weekend, what's going to happen for dinner.
Since it's a city, there's not much healthy food locally because all the farms are like far away, they're like upstate. So one issue would be like all the food that comes in, they might be a little like older or might have some chemicals on it to keep it fresh to get to the city.
People in the supply chain thinking about each step of the process and making sure that any excess goes to those in need, especially right in their backyard.
The biggest thing for us, and one thing that we always want to reiterate when we're talking about food justice, is we want to drill home the importance of dignity and choice. Just like those that may have the resources to go to a grocery store and pick out the food items that are not only culturally relevant for them and their families, but also align with dietary restrictions or observances, we make sure that all of our campus pantry partners are providing resources in the same way.
For example, kosher food being provided, to people that can only eat kosher food. And being a Korean, for example, the types of food being served at different soup kitchens, for example, wouldn't appeal or wouldn't be familiar to, my parents.
How has COVID-19 affected New York City food justice?
I do think there's the opportunity for all of us to kind of emerge from this with a more clear idea about what's wrong and broken about all of our systems, right? Not just our food system, but I guess they're all connected.
So since COVID-19, I think one of the biggest things that we've seen at Food Bank for New York City is an extreme rise in need for food and resources. And in all reality, we only expect that to continue and potentially increase even further, knowing that our providers, they're on the ground in those neighborhoods with fresh food items like strawberries and cucumbers and celery and romaine lettuce and things that if you stop perhaps by a local bodega, oftentimes you won't find access to those items. And for those specifically that may have health complications and are trying to filter in, traveling to get to those items is unjust.
Puts at risk the populations that are already at risk.
Maybe we can emerge from this and place more of a priority on supporting local growers and building local food systems.
And since people can't go outside, so like the hydroponic farm, like those small businesses won't be able to do what they do either if they're like in a school or in like a government building or in like a certain area, because those are shut down.
So our pickup average went from about 60, 70 pounds of food to now an average of 600 pounds of food. We started to drop off at hospitals, for example. The type of food donor partners have changed.
Sometimes you're not necessarily directly impacted by why someone may find themselves at a food pantry line or soup kitchen. But in this new climate, we are all impacted in some way or another. And I think through that, there's just been this greater sense of camaraderie that we see on the ground.
Honestly, it's been pretty amazing to see the community really step up. We've partnered with amazing organizations, the first of which was the Do Good Auto Coalition. They provided vehicles when we didn't have enough. I want to say Hero Meals Partnership helped us basically find hospitals that we didn't, that we had no idea how to contact or how to help.
I think during this entire time, just so overwhelmed by is the profound sense of community that New Yorkers have developed during this time. I think it's been for us sort of an unprecedented response that we've received from New Yorkers that are raising their hands to say, I've made masks for your providers. How can I get those resources to them? I have donations or supplies that I'd like to get to providers.
A lot of people are starting to step up, and a lot of new apps and people are starting to deliver food to like older folks as well.
The school food program that the DOE does, it's one of the biggest, not the biggest in the country. And that does serve breakfast and lunch to 1.1 million students. And then right now during COVID, they've extended that to just all residents.
I had a conversation and did a visit with a partner, and I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And, I don't want to get emotional, but they actually were infected with the virus. And even through all of that, they were so committed to serving their community that I was just in awe. And I remember saying, like, I just think you should take care of yourself. I understand, like, we can get some support and services to you, but it's so important that you take care of yourself. And the sentiment that was echoed was, my community needs me, and I'm here to serve this community. And it was almost like one of those, like, with my dying breath, like, I'm going to do this. And for me, it was a moment that made this whole thing so much more real. And, I hate that, we ended up losing that partner to the virus. And even in some conversations that I've had recently with their team, they took a moment and they said, we want to honor the legacy, and we're going to open back up. We're going to be providing this service to this community because that honors the legacy and the passion that this leader had.
What would you want people who are food insecure to know?
We're here for you as New Yorkers and as the Food Bank for New York City. So many that are visiting pantries now have never been before. We have made sure, and we are continuing to make sure, that there are no barriers for you to access food. You can call us if you need information on a home delivery, and we can connect you to someone that is in your neighborhood. We've made modifications to ensure we're cleaning our facilities, protecting our staff, protecting our employees and our partners, so that we can continue to make sure that resources are available to those that need it. And we are doing everything in our power and shouting it from the rooftops and talking to our elected officials and talking to our corporate partners about this work and the stories that they tell us.
So if you're hearing this and you are concerned about having enough food, the Hunter College Food Policy Center has produced a neighborhood resource guide for anyone that is in need of food. And it's really thorough and it's being updated. And so I would highly recommend that. Plentiful is an app that allows families to make a reservation at a pantry based on where you live.
And to go to the schools as well, because my mom, she goes to the schools in my neighborhood and gets the breakfast and lunch on the weekdays. And Mom, thank you for that, because you go outside every day in the morning, wake up and go and actually get the food. So thank you for that 100%.
There's no shame in going out to get the food that's being provided. When I was hungry, I would just kind of be mad and just kind of take it out on random people. It just really I think I came at it at a place of shame. There's no shame in receiving help from the community and from the public, especially if you're going to be returning that help, if you're going to be giving back and paying it forward.
How can people help fight for food justice?
First and foremost, take care of yourself and take care of your loved ones before you worry about my schoolwork, before you worry about what's happening outside of your home. And I do think that for many of us, there's a lot happening inside our home that's occupying our time right now. But to just start, really, if you haven't already, think about the food that you eat and the impact it has on your body, the impact it has on the environment, and on the people that produce it and sell it and truck it and ship it. I think like individual things that people can do is think about their own choices around food waste. And if you're not familiar with the topic of just generally around food justice and food sovereignty, I think Michael Pollan is always a great place to start, a good author to start with. I think of like Karen Washington and the folks at Soulfire Farm, and restaurant folks like Jose Andres. And there's Zoom panel discussions happening almost every week, all over the place around these topics, and then trying to envision a better future.
We need volunteers, particularly people with vehicles, but I know that the need for volunteers extends beyond just our organization, Rescuing Cuisine, but the other ones as well.
We still need our friends and partners to help fuel this emergency response work. And one of the easiest ways to do that is by donating. That anyone, that may have an extra few dollars or dollar to spare, we will stretch that dollar and make it turn into 5 meals for those that really do truly need it.
I mean, in terms of restaurants, remembering that, they're going to be an industry that's going to be the hardest hit from this is crucial.
Like supporting local farms so they can get those fresh food out to the people.
So one thing that we're actively working on is creating avenues and opportunities for students to get involved, whether that's creating a thank you card or letter that they can send to local service providers in their community. And then we also have opportunities to share our campaign on social media. You can set up a crowdfunding with you and your friends and work to support the work that we do in that way as well.
There's just so much experience and passion out there in all of our neighborhoods. It's a massive network, and once you start going there, you find out that it's a huge community of people that are ready to fight for food justice.